Hello and welcome to another webinar from us here at Frends Technology. My name is Asmo Urpilainen and I'm the CTO here at Frends. We are very excited today to walk you through our first look at Agentic AI and how that translates into features to our platform, our overall, let's say, thinking and views around Agentic AI and how we see that changing the integration and automation world. And of course, we are really heavily focusing on practical examples to try to convey our vision around Agentic AI. And in today's webinar, what we basically want to cover are two upcoming features to the platform, how those can be utilized to bring AI in an efficient and secure way to all of our customer organizations, and of course, beef those up with lots of real-life examples like I mentioned. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. So if you have any questions during the webinar, please don't hesitate to use the Q&A section at the bottom right of the screen, and we'll answer your questions as best as we can as we go along the presentation here. Perfect. But hey, let's get started. So first up, what we want to kind of cover is to set the stage here a bit, is use this Frends Agentic AI maturity methodology index we've developed, where the idea is that we want to really, let's say, focus on clarifying what should be the practical steps that all of our customers and all of our organizations and users of the platform should take in order to actually advance from an unfamiliar stage, so the stage number 1, all the way to stage number 5, which is then fully autonomous AI. And we're not going to be focusing today on the aware and unfamiliar parts of the index, but rather look at the exploration, the integrated, and the autonomous stages. And to basically set the tone here, what the exploration stage means is that we see the vast majority of our customers still at this particular stage where they have started testing AI. There might be ongoing pilots, ongoing proof of concepts around AI, perhaps a few successful implementations here and there, but AI is not really still integrated into the core business processes. And of course, it's mainly user-driven or user-centric, meaning that there's typically some sort of a chat-based interface available that the employees of the organization use to access the AI and leverage their capabilities pretty manually from that perspective. So what we're first introducing is a new feature we're calling the Intelligent AI Connector, which is purely aimed at enabling customers to transition from the exploration stage to the integrated stage. And in the integrated stage, what you've basically achieved is the usage of AI in those core business processes, in those business critical integrations and automations. And what we really want to enable for our customers and what the vision around the Intelligent AI Connector is to allow for that seamless transition from the exploration stage to the integrated stage with as little effort as possible, and of course with as much as transparency in around usage of the AI as possible. So in the integrated stage, the use cases might still be very, very simple if we look at what AI is capable of in the big picture, but the simple use cases and let's say this point-to-point usage of AI in tactical and strategic ways can really still provide a lot of value for all of our customers and of course users. But of course the shining star at the end of the road is then the fully autonomous stage, where if in the integrated stage you have implemented AI to be part of your business processes and you have a systematic approach in basically reaping the benefits around AI, in the fully autonomous stage, you then actually allow AI to take full control of entire business processes from an end-to-end perspective or certain parts of business processes and basically flip the script a little bit. So To further clarify, the idea in the integrated stage is that you use AI to enhance the capabilities of existing integrations and automations. In the fully autonomous stage, you basically give AI the reins and allow AI to make decisions rather than just use AI to enhance existing solutions. And basically what we're going to be covering today in today's webinar is how to move from the exploration stage to the integrated stage using our intelligent AI connector, and then how to move from the integrated stage to the fully autonomous stage using our AI toolbox or MCP features built into the Frends platform. So let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do before we dive into the practical features and of course examples is maybe do a little bit of definition also, since I think there are as many definitions of agentic AI as there are people talking about AI, which can make, let's say, finding a common language a bit tricky sometimes. So it's good to lay out, let's say, the ground rules and the framework of the terminology we're going to be using in today's webinar. So first of all, we consider two main types of agentic AI use cases to be kind of called under or caught under this umbrella term of agent. So we have AI workflows, as you can see here in the top part of the presentation, and then we have AI agents, as you can see in the bottom part here. So the main difference is between the two maturity levels we just covered, where the AI workflow is a normal integration or automation solution, where we have just utilized AI to provide either existing functionality, new functionality, or more intelligence to the processing in a general way. But the solution itself is still deterministic, meaning that a developer, a user, a human being has defined how the solution should be executed, in which order do different tasks and actions happen, and AI is basically always doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, and we try to strive for as consistent usage of AI as possible. And then how we consider an AI agent, on the other hand, is then flipping the script. So an AI agent is now actually a non-deterministic way of achieving the same end goal. And in that case, what we basically allow the AI to do is to come up with a plan of action by itself. And we simply offer the AI a toolkit or access to different variety of tools to achieve those previously deterministic actions, but the AI actually is making the decisions when and how and in which order I should consume those tools or actions. And if we first focus on now on three guiding principles that we have kind of laid out for ourselves when working with agentic AI, and this is, of course, coming from a lot of our own experience with working with real-life solutions, as well as a bunch of research online. But how we really kind of, let's say, frame the setting here is that, first of all, we think that whenever you're working with AI and agentic AI in particular, you should focus on simplicity, meaning that you should find the simplest solution possible to get to the end goal, to get to the value that the AI can provide. Because actually, in many cases, you optimizing, let's say, a single large language model call or usage with real-time context is usually enough to get to that value that AI can actually bring, and you don't need to have complicated frameworks or, let's say, dedicated AI platforms in between complicating the usage of the AI. Secondly, transparency should be one of the top priorities, because you cannot, let's say, control or govern something you don't see. So you need to understand, and you need to ensure that you understand the underlying technical implementation around AI, because what we see with actual real customer scenarios is that incorrect assumptions on what's actually happening with the AI are a very common source of actually error and also problems down the road if you don't have that transparency in place. And finally, direct AI consumption, meaning that you should be able to understand what AI models you're using. Like I said previously, you don't need to have unnecessary frameworks in place complicating the solution or specialized libraries, but instead you should be using composable patterns with direct AI usage to build out your agentic AI strategy. So I guess without further ado, as we now have kind of reached a little bit of common ground in terms of our thinking, in terms of where we are, where we want to be going, how do we want to help the customer achieve those goals and steps, we can move on to introduce our Frends Intelligent AI Connector feature, which in essence is following those 3 guidelines to the letter. So it is a capability that you can now implement directly into the integration processes and workflows built by Frends as a new shape in the BPM and 2.0 notation. And what the shape basically enables the customer or the user to do is have some sort of input data coming in to that intelligent AI connector. We have 3 different kinds of prompts available. We have system prompts, which govern the, let's say, ground rules and the framework within which the AI can function. We have developer prompts, which direct the AI on how it should actually achieve its task. And then we have user prompts specifying that this is now the task that you should be working with. And of course, now using the input data and these prompts, the AI model is capable of producing an output, which we are ensuring is basically raw JSON data, enabling that to be seamlessly utilized in the following steps in the process sequence or the integration workflow. And of course, what we really put a lot of effort towards is the reasoning log. So for every execution of AI, we want to be able to see exactly the reasoning the AI used to get from the input using the prompts to that particular output. And that really gives you the transparency to be able to audit what the AI is actually doing, similarly as if you were, let's say, executing code, but it's just an AI execution instead. One of the things that we want to highlight here is that we are also offering a pre-curated and pre-prompted model catalog where we have selected the variety of current and upcoming AI models, which we feel are best suited for various different types of AI use cases in these AI-powered workflows. And what the pre-curated catalog offers to you is basically an easy way to take AI, plug it in without having to do a whole ton of research and, let's say, prompt fine-tuning to get to the value, and you can start using the AI basically straight away. But of course, we understand that not everyone wants to utilize, let's say, pre-packaged AI models, and instead we also then offer an option for the customer to bring their own AI using Azure AI Foundry, or even fully on-premise AI capabilities using Ollama deployments, and of course any type of open source large language model deployed with Ollama. So if that's in a nutshell the intelligent AI connector feature, how can we now use that in a practical setting? So a good way to explain this might be to take this in 3 different steps, where we first have no AI involvement, which is probably the current situation for a lot of organizations, then introduce a little bit of AI, and then finally try and expand the usage of AI to create full automation, full autonomy within the integration solution or the process workflow itself. So if the step number one here is then no AI involvement, we have a nice use case here where we basically are looking to automate the routing of a customer email. So we have an imaginary organization here, which has 3 different business functions. They have IT support, customer support, and sales. And they have a single shared email box where customers can, of course, reach out and contact this imaginary organization, which means that now they need to have a solution in place that detects which of these departments the email should be going towards. And of course, with no AI involvement, we could use more traditional rule and keyword-based routing to do the categorization, do the routing, but developing and maintaining those more traditional routing-based rules, as an example, is very cumbersome and even more time-consuming. And of course, it only works with predefined set of rules. So when there's a new type of email that doesn't fit any of the rules, the entire solution typically fails and does not work properly. So now what we can actually then do, and here is the, let's say, cool part or the real value we really want to bring to the customer, is you can actually take the routing component here and replace that with the Frends Intelligent AI connector. And now, instead of having to write a whole ton of more traditional routing-based rules, with a very, very simple prompt, and of course, pre-selected model, we can do the categorization of the email into these three different categories using AI, and we can actually even further increase the capabilities of the solution by perhaps adding in a second step of AI for tone of voice analysis of the actual incoming email. And what this means from a practical perspective is that the AI is now instructed to first select one of the 3 different categories or routes that the execution can take. And then if the route or the top route here for IT support is selected, we can then analyze the tone of voice, like I mentioned, and for example, determine the IT support ticket, which in this imaginary example is using the Jira system. So we could have, let's say, the ticket severity mapped out by the AI using the tone of voice analysis as the second step. And if we dive into what's happening really inside this email categorization AI connector execution step here, we can do that quite nicely on the next slide. So as an example, this would now be what the user has prompted the AI to do. So the user has told the AI to act as a customer service desk representative, analyze the following customer email, and decide which of these 3 categories it should go to. So of course, the options in this case are IT support, customer service, or sales. And the input is, of course, the email itself, which in this case is targeting an imaginary cleaning company, cleaning operation. And the email is sent by Miss Sarah Thompson in this case. And of course, Sarah Thompson is quite cross since the company has missed their booked cleaning appointment and is now complaining about that. So now, using these 2 as the input, what the output will actually be is now a JSON representation of the category, which in this case is the customer service. And most importantly, we can then also see the reasoning log saying that these were the steps that the AI basically actually took to get to the end result that this should be treated as a customer service email. And from the AI reasoning log, what we can basically see is that the AI has taken this sort of a process of elimination to get to the category, since it's identified that there are no technical issues mentioned, there is no sign of intent to purchase new services, which rule out IT support and sales, leaving the customer service as the only viable category in this particular example. And if we go even further along, so we would now have our email categorization, we have the tone of voice analysis, we could actually implement further capabilities into the process as well by, for example, putting in this step for the customer service line where we actually ask the AI, can you solve this particular question for the customer support by yourself if you had access to this and this information? And this is actually a pretty cool use case that we haven't seen lots of other people mention thus far, where AI is actually very capable of analyzing whether or not it would be able to reliably solve some sort of a use case or some sort of a task. And in this case, what we can do is actually ask the AI, are you able to answer this customer email with this data automatically? And if no, all right, then we just route the email directly back to customer support. But if yes, what we can then actually do is retrieve the customer's data from the CRM system, including all the previous conversations, what sort of business plans or models are in place, and feed that along with the original email as context for our final AI model here to allow for contextual natural language generation, which basically allows the AI now to generate a personalized answer to the email the customer is actually asking or sending about the issue or whatever question they might have had. And this might be now a really good example of how you can take a process which has no AI involvement. We have lots and lots of these examples, and probably every organization has tons of solutions where they are automated to a degree, but there is no AI involvement yet, and very easily actually bring in AI to provide a more value, more intelligence to the actual execution of the integration flow or the business process, and of course keep on building on top of that foundation until you reach actually fully autonomy or fully autonomous solutions that can solve at least portions of the goals and solutions of the business processes by themselves. And at this stage, we would now consider the customer to be at the integrated stage of the maturity index. Just to maybe get the thinking juices flowing a bit better with all of you listeners here, we have a couple of further samples here to really kind of convey the idea of what's possible with this AI orchestration in mind. So as an example, we might have a use case where an employee could make a purchase requisition order, and we wanted to have some sort of a rule or validation in place that if the purchase requisition is over or has a total cost or monetary impact of over 5,000 euros, then we need to have, let's say, some sort of corrective action or, let's say, managerial approval for the purchase requisition. And if it's less, we could then fully automatically approve that, since that's something that employees are allowed to do. And actually what we can now use AI is use that purchase requisitions information as context and take the general world knowledge and understanding of the more extensive large language models to be able to actually make the AI do this sort of a data projection scenario for us. So basically estimate the total cost impact if we were to acquire this sort of hardware as a practical example. Another really good use case might be that you have something like, let's say, VAT code and percentage mapping, something that if you're doing sales or business abroad, you need to be aware of, since of course different products in different countries have different VAT percentages, and sometimes even the categories within which those products fall can also change. So previously we might have had a huge mapping table with all the world's VAT codes and categories in place, and somehow try to map our product into one of those correct categories in the country we want to sell the product to. But actually AI has all of this information, especially the more complete or extensive AI models with good general world knowledge embedded into them. And we can just ask the AI, hey, if I have this product, what category should it be in this country and what should be the VAT percentage we apply, and basically fully automate that use case as well. And of course, as it is the case with all AI scenarios, we need to include the capability to actually make sure that the VAT code is analyzed properly. And if not, we need to ask for human intervention or human in the loop reasoning to help the AI out a bit. Going even further, so now if we really try to kind of take all the pieces we've learned thus far, try to apply them in this AI workflow context as best as we can, we might have a scenario such as this, where we have a company whose main business is to actually maintain equipment, like let's say property automation or IoT devices. They might be smart lights or AC units or whatever. Equipment located at properties, and the company's job is to maintain those as a service. What we could actually then do is first retrieve all of the properties from the ERP system, and for each property we find from the ERP, we want to get all the installed equipment for that particular property, and then for each equipment inside that property, we want to get the maintenance history of that equipment. We want to get the IoT data for the last 30 days, if that's available. And actually, we might even get the equipment manufacturer's guide, or let's say guidelines, on how to maintain and use that particular device as a PDF file, and then actually feed all of those 3 different data points as context for an AI model to analyze and create an equipment maintenance plan based on the manufacturer's guidelines and all of the data that we have previously basically gathered. And an individual equipment is now, of course, something that we go through all of the different equipments for each of the properties one by one. And this is what really unlocks the power of this AI-powered workflow automation, because now actually we can keep the context window that the AI is using at a reasonable size, because if we were to do this for all the equipments at the same time, that's never going to work. It's a task that's too complicated and let's say even too large for an AI. But this approach where we loop through individual equipments allows us to get very good results for an individual piece of equipment. And what's of course the output from here is now the plan or the maintenance plan for each equipment individually. And we can have a second AI, which then of course summarizes and combines these individual maintenance plans for each of the equipment into a property level maintenance plan. And of course, that might be something that we automatically save to the CRM system, where then that can be utilized by sales of the customers to actually start pushing that towards the properties that they are maintaining. Now that we've covered a pretty extensive look at the intelligent AI connector and what we can actually achieve and do with that in a real life scenario, and of course, only your imagination is basically the limit, but this should unlock some new avenues of thinking about AI and AI orchestrated workflows for you. But now, like I mentioned, it's a good time that we take a look at the second stage, which is of course now the leap from integrated towards autonomous stage in the integration maturity index. And this leads us to introducing the Frends AI toolbox. We've been talking about the Frends AI toolbox approach previously as well. And at that stage, we still called it AI toolbox, as we are still doing today. But of course, since the last time we explained our vision around the AI toolbox approach, our very nice friends at Anthropic came up with a nice acronym called MCP, Model Context Protocol, which basically establishes a globally accepted standard of communication using this AI toolbox architecture or approach. But what does the AI toolbox approach or the MCP context within an iPaaS actually practically mean? It means now that if you remember the previous examples we went through where we still modeled out the integration flow, and it still is a deterministic approach because we are telling the AI exactly what it should be doing, and we are basically governing all of the steps around the AI in a very deterministic pattern. The MCP context or the AI toolbox approach actually flips the script completely on its head, and instead of doing things in a sequence to, for example, gather context for the AI, we simply tell the AI its goal and how it should get to its goal. So we transform the context of using the AI from do this to actually providing it a target and allowing the AI to actually do the reasoning itself on what would be the best path to reach that goal. And of course, in order to reach that goal, what the AI actually then needs, what the AI model needs, is access to still the same systems, that same real-time context we previously modeled out in a process format, but the AI is basically calling the shots and deciding what data, what functions I'm using at which stage to get to my goal. And that's what the AI toolbox is there to enable. It's to enable the AI to have nice, well-governed and well-monitored access to your system, to your business landscape, to your data in real time. And the MCP protocol is there to enable that seamless transition of data and allowing the AI to discover the available tools, the available actions that the AI can take. And of course, the iPaaS or Frends is now maintaining that toolbox or those MCP servers that now practically offer that functionality, offer that data to the AI. And of course, in these sorts of scenarios where the AI is actually now making the decisions, we need to be even more careful around governance. We need to be even more transparent in understanding what's happening within the AI when it's making those decisions. And we need to have even better guardrails in place to ensure that the AI does not do something which it's not supposed to be doing, or it doesn't do something incorrect by accident. And that's where basically iPaaS or Frends steps in, is to provide those well-defined, nicely governed guardrails so that the usage of these autonomous AIs is actually safe, and it's something that can be considered trustworthy by the users and our clients. So from a practical perspective, what does this mean? Is of course means that you still might have scenarios where you have AI agents which are autonomous and you have follow-up actions, such as, for example, in this case, where we might have a software as a service company that gets a lead converted in their CRM system or on their website. And what they need to do is now generate a customized onboarding plan. And in this case, we've actually created that with an AI agent that has access to 3 separate tools to get the deal type that the lead is actually working with, the customer profile of the lead, and the team availability who's actually now working with that particular client. And the AI is now able to use all of these 3 different tools simultaneously to craft a customized onboarding plan. And of course, what the iPaaS is then doing is simply approving the plan and sending out a calendar invite, for example, for the actual lead itself. A second good example here might be this sort of a material shortage agent, where we can actually start to look at automating entire business processes from an end-to-end perspective, where, for example, our MES system might identify a material shortage. So we have a manufacturing process and we are missing some critical material to be able to run through that material process. And we might have an AI agent that actually assesses different options from our existing supply chain to get to the best possible plan with as little time lost and, of course, as little cost impact as possible, and basically generate a risk-weighted plan on where we should try to get the new replacing material as quickly as possible. Again, we need to have human in the loop for approval, but then, of course, we can utilize the normal iPaaS features to actually put in those orders as soon as the plan, for example, gets approved. Finally, maybe it's a good idea to maybe dive into what's happening inside of this sort of a goal-driven autonomous AI agent in a bit more detail. So in this case, and this scenario, we have a sample where we are receiving an order via an incoming email, and the goal that we have provided for our AI agent is to take that work order and insert that into our ERP system, and we've allowed that particular AI to have access to two separate tools: put work order into the ERP and create customer. And now what the AI is basically thinking and reasoning might be something like this, where first, of course, the AI detects that, hey, okay, my goal is to now take the work order and put it into the ERP. I have received that work order in an email format. So that means that now I need to take the information from the email and insert that to the ERP system, but I need a tool to actually insert that work order. So I need to search for that. So I need to find a tool to actually allow me to insert the work order. And good enough, of course, because we have configured the AI to have access to that particular tool. The AI found a compatible tool it recognized is capable of achieving its immediate goal in this case, which is now inserting the work order. And of course, the steps that the AI then can fully autonomously take is to extract the needed data from the email, any type of attachments that might be included, and consume that tool using the MCP protocol, or consuming that tool, the MCP server that the Frends iPaaS is exposing as one of the tools in the AI toolbox. And the cool thing to understand here now is the link between the reasoning that the AI is doing, being able to have transparent access to this reasoning log, and being able to link particular reasoning steps, like, for example, consuming that tool to a more traditional deterministic integration workflow or integration process, where we actually can now model out and put in those guardrails for the AI. So we can validate the order. We can ensure, for example, that or if we are inserting that order, do we have all of the necessary relations between other systems in place, such as the customer existing in both the CRM and the ERP system in this case. We might do more traditional, let's say, mapping of CRM IDs to ERP IDs. All of these things, which are still very hard for AI to do reliably, we can put into the tool modeling and simply offer that as an easy-to-use package for the AI. That's also well documented from a contextual perspective, meaning that the AI is now able to understand when, how, and if I'm supposed to be using this tool. And that, of course, now can also result, in fact, in the situation such as in this particular example, where we are now, of course, might be receiving the AI's tool call executing through the normal workflow. but actually we determined that the customer does not yet exist correctly. So we can actually also return an error, and we can use the MCP protocol also to describe for the AI that what sort of error scenarios are possible when consuming these types of tools. And that actually now means that we return an error, in this example for the AI agent, saying that the customer is not found. So now the AI agent is actually able to adjust its reasoning. It's able to adjust its plan of action dynamically on the fly, meaning that it now recognizes that, hey, because if the customer does not exist yet, and this is an error I'm getting from the MCP server, from the integration flow published tool, and we've explained that if you get this error, you need to actually create the customer first. So now the AI understands it needs to find a tool to create that customer. So again, of course, it could find a tool for creating a new customer. It could consume that tool. Again, that would be another more traditional integration workflow or integration process. And if that's successful, like in our use case it is, we can now actually continue with our original plan of action of putting the work order into the ERP, because we've now created the customer using the second tool available in the toolbox. And in the end, of course, now the work order creation works because we have now created the customer in the first place. And this is what true autonomy in an AI agent means, meaning that the AI agent is able to dynamically pick out the best way for it to interact with the system landscape available to it, enabled by MCP servers and iPaaS. It's able to actually adjust its plan of action, its reasoning along the way, and it's able to, of course, reach its end goal, which in this case, of course, was to create the order in the first place. So this was a very, very simple example with only two tools, but of course, this might be expanded into covering entire business processes, and this is really something that we feel and see customers and, of course, the entire world moving towards at an ever-increasing pace. So maybe to recap here just quickly, what we want to introduce first is the intelligent AI connector, allowing customers and our users to create AI-powered workflows to get to those low-hanging fruits and benefits of using AI to do new use cases, do the same existing use cases, but in an easier, more efficient, and a faster way. Once you've basically mastered that, you need to start looking at creating fully autonomous AI agents using the MCP protocol combination with an iPaaS, such as Frends, to create that AI toolbox architecture. And of course, the good thing and the cool thing about the MCP and toolbox architecture approach is that in our example, we utilized an AI agent directly hosted and delivered within the Frends platform, but the MCP protocol allows us now to connect the iPaaS to any autonomous AI agent, because you might in the future have AI agents directly built within your ERP system, your CRM system, or just standalone agents operating certain chains or parts of business processes. And all of those agents will need to have similar, well-governed, well-structured, well-monitored access to those business functions, to the business data in real time, like we saw in our previous example. Thank you so much at this point. And now, if we have any questions, we might try to answer those as best as we can. Thank you.